Back when I was in high school, I used to spend an enormous amount of time on my assignments. I would look at my phone while I did work, be with a friend that I would always talk with while I was trying to figure out how to solve a problem, and listen to music. I thought I was being productive because I got energy from the music. I had a second brain to help me through the homework questions, and I was working on the things I needed to get done. Guess what? During those study sessions, I got nothing done. Do you know why? I was in a distracted environment. I was with a great friend, but these conversations were never productive. They were always off topic. And I was listening to lyrical music that filled my brain with lyrics, clogged my thinking, and I just couldn't think straight. It took me a while to figure out, how can I be more productive? I always hated doing homework. I hated studying. Studying is not in my vocabulary. I like to name it as reviewing. I hated reviewing, and I needed to optimize my productivity because in college, you can't just skip homeworks or do homeworks last minute or do projects last minute. You need to actually put in the work. I always found studying boring, but at some point I figured out that the boring is the fun. Doing the hard work is the fun. If you aren't reviewing and it isn't hard, then that means you aren't actually learning what you are trying to review. Because if it was easy, then it wouldn't be worth reviewing. Does that make sense? Well, I wasn't able to figure out my problems until during COVID my senior year. Maybe it was due to a heartbreak, or I don't know. But this led me to find self-improvement. But with a different style semester, or it's a year or whatever for my senior year, what they did is they semesterized our years. So instead of having classes your full year, they decided to semesterize it. So you take 5 or 6 classes a semester, and then the next semester you take a different class. They accelerated everything, especially the APs. It was crazy. It was probably the stupidest thing my school has ever done. But that's when I knew something needed to change because everything was fast paced. With the accelerated classes, I had volunteering, I had work, and I also was doing track and field. So my time did not exist. I was busy. So my senior year, I had to lock in. So how did I increase my productivity with a busy schedule? To identify my deficiencies, I needed to self-reflect upon what I do in a day. I looked into my morning and night routines and the time I spent on my phone, plus how much time I spent on an app on my phone. I remember back then I used to go home, get out a bowl of chips or snacks or whatever, and then just pop on a new episode of a show that I really enjoyed, probably Supernatural or The Flash, something stupid like that. I would do that, maybe catch up if I didn't the past week, but I'll pop those on, eat my snacks, and then I will go to practice, come back, maybe binge watch a show or something, and then do my work. I would also spend, a lot of time on Instagram. I think back then it wasn't as addicting because Reels wasn't as popular, but it still existed. So, I was sort of still addicted. So I would spend a lot of time on that. Snapchat, definitely in the past, Snapchat, and TikTok as well. Those 3 apps were the bane of my existence. I would be on those while I watch the shows, eat, and then go to practice, and then do the same after I come to practice. Of course, this isn't sustainable. So junior and senior year, I had to ask myself, did this thing add any positive benefit to my life? So with Instagram, I had to say, what's the point of being on Instagram? Is it just because I want to connect with other people, or is it because I'm addicted to the dopamine that Instagram gives me? Back then I wasn't creating content, so there wasn't really much point. So I remember deleting Instagram for a little bit until I started to create, but at that time period, I deleted Instagram, also then looked at Snapchat, and I was like, you're basically just sending your face to these people, trying to keep a streak going, and there's really no value. You're not having a conversation, you aren't face to face with people. Well, in COVID, that's really hard to do too. And there's really no meaning. In COVID, if you want to have a meaningful conversation, you would call them or, try to meet them in person. So that's why I deleted Snapchat, deleted Instagram. I don't think I had TikTok until I started creating content. That was kind of my reasoning, but you kind of get sucked into the trap if you watch videos on TikTok anyways. But what I've noticed after deleting these apps or staying away from these apps as best as I could was that my brain fog was gone I was able to think clearly, and my emotional, sometimes these things kind of numb yourself. It kind of numbs like your sense of presence, but deleting these things have made my presence better. It's also helped me get more sleep because these apps take a lot of energy. I like to call them energy suckers. And if you do homework and you have these apps or even your phone next to you, it's very likely that you'll open your phone randomly, and when you're on your phone you'll be kind of have a sense of boredom. So then you would try to look for these apps and just go on Instagram, go on TikTok while you do the work. And that's not good. I've also been watching shows while I did my homework, or I try to do my homework while I watch shows in the past, of course, and I felt like that wasn't as productive as it should be either. Because you are trying to think about how to do this math problem, but then something happens in that show, so you look up, and then your attention is like, oh, what just happened? What was it before? Did I miss something? And then you're like, oh shoot, I have to do this math problem. And it's kind of just like this tug of war of attention back and forth kind of concept. The next deficiency was pursuing women. At the beginning of senior year, I got heartbroken. So, it wasn't a big problem, but from the past, it was definitely a big problem. It kind of diluted me, or, it sucked my attention away from the things that actually matter in my life. Because, in your teenage years, you think those are important, but in reality, it's not. So if you're in your teens, just don't pursue them. It's not worth it. Just don't do it at all. But this is what I noticed senior year when I was heartbroken. I didn't want to pursue anybody. I felt like my attention was incredible, right? Because I don't have these apps. My dopamine levels are back to normal, and I just didn't want to chase anybody. So the only things I focused on was my work, thinking of creating content, homework in school, and track. That's where all my energy and focus went to, because I've eliminated these deficiencies from my life. So all my attention, focus and energy just went to these important things. I'm not trying to say relationships are bad. I'm in one right now. But if you're at this stage of your life where you're trying to build something, especially, when you're in high school, you're trying to build yourself, build your interests, build the things that you want to pursue. Those are important. Those things last longer. Those things are what you strive for. It's better for you to drive towards something or strive towards something than to just let things come to you, because things will never come to you. You're going to have to take it. You're going to have to go for it. And that's what I've noticed. I've always thought, at some point I'll get faster, even though I haven't been training optimally or eating optimally. So, senior year, or before, summer to fall of senior year, I was intentional with my training, and I studied a lot of track and field. I studied how to sprint, training programs, diet. I did all that. That's gotten me a lot faster. And that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had all my focus and mental energy on the thing I was striving towards. And what I was striving towards was getting faster. So, you identify your deficiencies. Now what? Like I said, do the opposite that you do. That is what I did. I saw that I spent a lot of my time on my phone while I did work. So I decided just to put my phone in a different room, put it upstairs, just leave it away from me. And when I had my night routine, I would also just keep it downstairs. Sounds a little confusing. So my workspace was downstairs. So when I did my work, I would put my phone in my room. But when it comes to nighttime, before my night routine, I would bring my phone downstairs and let it charge overnight in my workplace. So my phone will constantly be away from me. So, when I'm doing my night routine, my attention wouldn't be taken away by, a YouTube video or an episode. And I wouldn't be on a bunch of apps or playing these games like Clash all night, because it'll be downstairs. I wouldn't be distracted. The next thing I did was I turn off music while I read. What I have found is that when I'm reading something, I need silence, because if something is going into my ear, like music or someone's talking, that just distracts me. It doesn't allow me to talk to my head or talk in my head while I read. So having silence is probably the best thing you could do if you have to read something. And that's what I've found that enhanced my productivity. But if it was like a project, math, or some type of review, I would just put on like very high tempo music, like high energy music, because one, I hate reviewing, so I need that extra boost of energy, and two, if I'm listening to some R&B or jams like that, it just puts me in the mood to actually do the work, jam out, and make it a good time instead of something that's just dreadful. Like I said before, I used to do work with my friend. I love him, he's great, but sometimes we just talk a lot about different things that aren't related or kind of productive, which takes our time away from what we're actually trying to finish. So to limit the distractions in my environment, I decided to just do the work at home, put on noise canceling headphones, don't talk to anybody, just tell my parents just leave me alone for like 2 hours and just do the work that I need to do. No distractions, nobody's talking to you, you aren't trying to get up to do something else or an errand or a chore. But if you don't have noise canceling headphones, you can probably just go to your library, should be quiet, or just try to find a quiet space somewhere in your school, library, or coffee shop. Coffee shops are usually noisy, but if that's the vibe and you aren't too sensitive to noises or background noises, then go for it, try it out, experiment with these things. That's what I did, and I found that if I need to get a lot more kind of brain provoking tasks done, I'd rather be in my room doing the work. But if it's like writing and scripting like this, or even editing, I think being in a coffee shop environment is fostering. Another deficiency I've noticed was my brain energy. So I've noticed that if I try to remember everything that I need to get done today, tomorrow, or even the week later, I've noticed that during practice I would think about it, not be present at practice. If I'm eating dinner with my parents, I would not be present because I would just be thinking about all the things I have to do. So I've noticed that it just took away my attention and my energy. Try to tell myself to remember these things I have to get done, and that's just not productive. So what I've found that some people might hate, some people might be against, is to have a to-do list, or at least a calendar of tasks that you need to get done. So, you have a calendar that has all the due dates. Just look at that when you need to get work done. And I found it useful because when I write things that I need to get done today or tomorrow, whatever, I found that I don't need to think about what I need to get done. But you also don't forget that you need to get something done because you wrote it down, instead of having to remember a 10-thing list that you might forget something, right? So if you're able to write everything down, it helps you save the energy and the attention that you need to remember everything. Plus, it also saves you stress, right? If you keep constantly thinking about, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, that just induces stress. It's not helpful. So just writing it down, don't thinking about it until you actually have the time to work on it, it helps. But yeah, senior year, I barely, pursued any woman besides until afterwards, but that wasn't, that wasn't a super thing super pursue. I was just kind of just vibing, trying to see where things are going. But during senior year, locked in, I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere because one, we're seniors, it's not going to have any value, and two, I felt like running faster, having good grades, working and making money is the most important things of my life at that time. If you want to know what my life was like, I would either train in the morning during the fall. Okay, so I'll break this down. So in the fall, I would train in the mornings, either run or lift. Probably it would depend. So some days I would run, some days I would lift in the morning, like an upper body day, and then run in the afternoon. But run and lift in the morning, either one. School, come back, or train at school if that's a training day. But if not, I would come back, do homework or review some things, and then I would go to work. And then that would be my day on a weekday. But on the weekend, I would also train, but also work. So I would work at Tris, as you can see here. On the weekends, I think some weekdays, if I remember, I don't really remember, but I would also do that, which is taking up my evenings. So that's pretty much all my days in the fall. Once it was winter and spring, where the track season starts, that's when my time gets cut down a lot more. I have meets to attend, but I'm pretty sure I kept working too. So yeah, it was chaotic. The only time I had for things was school, track, and work. Now, if you're wondering what kind of studying technique that you can do You could try to do the Pomodoro technique, but I don't recommend it because I feel like you kind of just get out of flow when you are in flow. Like at some point you're in flow, but then you have to stop, go again, stop, go again. I don't feel like that's very good for my brain, especially if it's a high brain energy task. So what I'd like to do is at least 90 minutes to 2 hours of deep work. So I set a time block of 2 hours, have my list of to-dos, just tackle the one, probably the easiest one to the last. Some people are like, eat the frog first, right? But for me, I feel like when I look at a big list and I'm like, damn, I need to cross out all these things on my list, I will start with the easiest because then I'm like, okay, I'm getting momentum. I feel less stress because if I work on one thing, like the big hard task, stress would increase because I'm like, geez, I'm spending so much time on one task, but there's a bunch of these easy tasks that I should be getting done, but it's not because I'm just spending all my time on this one big task. So that just increases my stress. I don't feel like it's helpful because I'm losing energy from the stress. My brain is constantly thinking about the other tasks that I could get done quicker than this big task. So I tackle the smaller tasks, gain the momentum throughout this deep work session, and then tackle that hard task last. I would do like 2 to 3 of these a day if I had the time. If you don't, that's fine. At least have one. One is good enough. I still sort of use a system in college. I'm a lot more busier. I don't get 8 hours like I did in high school, but yeah, I mean, just don't be like me. Don't take a lot of credits one semester. You lose a lot of sleep. Your brain kind of just goes everywhere. But doing these deep session works has definitely helped me get better, get enough work done, be able to review enough to kind of succeed in the class. Like, I'm not failing any classes. That's all that matters. If you're not following what you plan to do and you keep making excuses to prevent you from doing what you need to do, then I suggest you to check out this video.